we're honored and humbled to have our special guests tonight. We have Norm Hughes, Ronna Romney-McDaniel, and Shmina. I know I was going to screw that up, but that's close, wasn't it? Shmina, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and let them start because we do have a big agenda, and we're going to start with Norm Hughes this evening.
You want me to speak from here? Or?
Anywhere you want.
Well, I don't want you to be in my back, so I can go from here. I'm Norm Hughes. I'm running for state chair of the Michigan Republican Party. The state party chair is a pretty serious position. It's an executive position. It involves a multi-million-dollar budget. It involves several staffers, growing up to as many as 100 sometimes during campaign times. And it makes serious decisions that affects millions of lives. So it's really important that we have somebody who's got that executive experience, who's been a CEO, who's run a corporation that handles hundreds of millions of dollars of work in my case. In the Reagan administration, I also handled a $1.8 billion budget in the Department of Energy and cut $1 billion out the first year. There's so much waste and fraud, so I know government inside. I've been in the inside. I've been on the outside. I've fought government all my life. I believe the reason I'm in this is because of my children and grandchildren. I don't want them to have the debt that we're putting on them. I see so many nice young faces here today, and I'm just pleased you're here. And but I'm worried about what we're doing to you. And so I've been fighting taxes. I co-authored the tax limitation amendment in the 1970s, put that into the Constitution. Our personal income is going up about 3% a year, but government income is going up 10% a year. So over a 10-year period, that's a 51% differential. And myself and a man from Midland, as a matter of fact, Bill Shaker, an economist at Dow Chemical, sat down and spent a week brainstorming on how we can reduce and control the size of government. So we did come up with the idea of pinning the government growth to the rate of inflation, or 5%, whichever was less. They had an amendment. In that process, we also put in a provision that said that the state government could not mandate to local government responsibilities without providing the resources too. You see the mayor of Owasso here, he's certainly probably beneficial of that. And so same, it applies to school districts too. So they can't go up more than the rate of inflation without coming to you and asking for more money. And I think that's citizen participation. That was a real game changer in Michigan. I also co-founded the largest grassroots movement in my time in Michigan, the Freedom to Work movement. We grew to 218 organizations involved with it, a coalition. We had over 70,000 members and 20,000 businesses. It was a phenomenal effort, and we just, why not say no? People told me we'd never pass right to work in Michigan. But I was down in 2008, I ran the presidential campaign in the northern several counties of Indiana after they pulled the plug here in Michigan. And I worked with legislators down there, and they were hot on it. I worked with them. I went back and went and passed it. We tooled that. We brought some of the people in from Texas and from Indiana to understand what was happening with the economy, and in a right-to-work task force that grew. Several legislators were involved with that, and we developed that coalition. So it was an astounding movement, and it's the kind of experience that I can bring to the party. I know how to run statewide organizations. I've got the executive experience to handle the budgets and be able to manage and plan. I'm an architectural engineer. I plan all the time, you know. With a project, you design it, you specify it, you bid it, you contract it, you superintend it, you schedule it. These are all key functions that also transfer into the political sphere. So I've been chief of staff to a congressman, managed his campaign. I've been a nominee for Congress twice myself, in fact, in this area. The district was all the way from Hemlock to Harbor Beach, and from Aranac down to Lapeer County. So the thumb area, I was district chairman here. When I became district chairman, we had only about 245 precinct delegates in the 7-county area. It had been neglected. We recruited over 600 precinct delegates. As a county chair, we turned out record votes. So I've got that experience of running a local organization. I can emphasize with candidates and with county and district chairs, and I think communications are key. We're, in many respects, a busted party right now. We had a purge of conservatives in the last primary. 5 groups spending almost $3 million, 51 full-time staffers trying to throw conservatives out. They threw Tea Parties out as precinct delegates, Tea Party leaders, and several across the state. There was a lot of antipathy. Despite the fact that happened, the conservative movement put in record numbers of precinct delegates, and we've got now more precinct delegates, I think, than any other time in my lifetime. And I'm really buoyed by that, and we want to put it back together, though, and communication is a way to do it. I would like to be able to set up a program where we will have a weekly email to precinct delegates and other interested Republicans to give them talking points. Give a little brief on maybe what Tim's doing in the legislature, and or what's happening with some key, what Paul's doing with the trying to stop the proposal 15-1, and some talking points that will help make you more effective in communicating. Abe Lincoln said the way you change public policy is by changing public opinions. So if we can give you talking points, you can talk to your neighbors, your friends, your relatives, your co-workers, your church members, and keep the message, the Republican message going day in and day out consistently. Will change a lot of minds in this party, will change a lot of minds across the populace, and we'll have a more conservative legislature and a more conservative government. So I think I had one legislator that day, Tim Coney, said that he hadn't heard from the state party chairman in 4 years. I think we will communicate with the legislature. There'll be partners. I want to get some of the legislators that might be willing to go and speak out of their area to connect, and that would be a twofold thing. It would provide clubs and organizations with good speakers, with a speakers bureau will develop, and it will also allow the people there to keep reminding our legislators and other leaders that we're serious about enforcing our principles. The party's principles have not been really adhered to by a lot of our people in public office. We had a situation where 8 Republican senators would key together with 12 Democratic senators and pass all kinds of things like Medicaid expansion, Common Core, in this ballot proposal. Now, I'm serious about branding the party. The delegates are telling me they want to brand the party, they want grassroots growth and development, they want to cooperate between the parties, have the state party be assistance and enable the county and local organizations to be effective. And they want somebody who's going to raise a sufficient amount of money to make this happen. In branding the party, I would like to see the delegates speak clearly. By polls we've done, they're 12-1 against this proposal. It's going to be on the ballot on May 5th. And by 7-1, they want the party to come out officially against it. With your permission and the party's support and the state committee and so on, I would like to see the Republican Party brand itself as the anti-tax party. And I would like to see us come out on post that thing on May 5th. I've met with the Speaker Pro Tem. I've asked them to put an alternative ballot proposal up there, a no-tax proposal, similar to what the House passed last spring. I don't think they're going to do that. So we may even go so far as to develop our own Republican proposal and have people at their tailgates and card tables on election day with a proposal of our own. And we'll brand the Republican Party as the anti-tax party, and it'll mean something, stand for something, so when people go to the polls, they don't get confused or stay away from the polls because there's no difference between the parties. I think that's extremely important. So I come to you with the experience to be able to make this happen, with the willingness and praise the Lord, the energy and the ability to do it, and I'm asking your support. How many of you are state delegates? Like, super. Like, I thank you, and I look forward to seeing you down there. Any alternates? Okay, well, let's have a great convention. Let's come out of it unified, one way or the other. Let's work together, and God bless you, and God bless America.
Questions now, or?
Whatever you want.
No? No. No? I made it.
Catherine?
Thank you, Norm, for making the trip. The Michigan Senate today voted to change the presidential primary date to May 15th. Do you support the party's resolution for the winner of 50% take all, and also how do you feel about the open primary?
I'm inalterably opposed to having Democrats choosing a Republican nominee. We've done the same thing. You know, I remember some of us crossed over and voted for George Wallace to trip up the Democrats. You know, so I'm opposed to that. As a matter of fact, I think it's obscene if we're the party of limited government, low taxes. Why are we asking taxpayers to spend $10 million with a popularity contest for president? I think we ought to eliminate the open primary period. If we're going to have a primary, the party ought to run itself. Maybe we ought to have people meet in the courthouses or so on, run by their local county Republican parties on some given Saturday at a given time, and then ask you to run it. Now, who gets to vote? Members of the party. It's going to rush a whole bunch of new people into the party, joining the county and the state and the district parties. And I think that would be a great boon to the party to be able to do that. It'll help us identify who our supporters are. It'll make sure Republicans pick Republican nominees. So I think as far as the winner take all, I think that's a terrible choice. I remember back in 1975, we had a third party, very effective third party. And Jerry Ford came to that third party, he's president now, and he's saying that come back into the Republican Party, we will have a proportional vote. And because of that, the Reagan team sent 29 delegates to the National Convention. I was chair of that campaign, as a matter of fact. And we were all together in the fall. Jerry Ford won the nomination, but because we had a fair opportunity, we were there. Now, winner take all, if it looks like Jeb Bush or Rand Paul is going to get 50+1, why would Huckabee and Walker show up? And even if we have the popularity contest, the presidential primary, we still have conventions to select the state, at the state convention, the national delegates. So why not make the candidates come directly to you? You know, why not have them have to come to the district and county meetings like we are for running this and get to know you personally? I think that's a much fairer way of doing it, and so, yeah, I would like to eliminate the presidential primary altogether. If we're going to have it, let's have it as a run by the party without $10 million from the taxpayers, and let's build up the party by virtue of doing that.
Norm?
I'm relatively...
Another Norm, sorry.
Hi, Norm.
I'm relatively new to the Republican Party, and the way I see it here is that our group supports the state group. And we vote for, we go down and vote, we do all kinds of things to provide advertising for people who are going to be running for state positions. What does the state plan to do, or do you have any ideas about the state helping us in Saginaw County? Now, is there give back to some of that effort that we put out?
Well, I would like to have the first state committee in March be in Saginaw Valley. In the Freedom to Work movement, our polls said that we were in trouble. I mean, we were carrying Wayne County, but we were losing in Bay City, Saginaw, Flint.
Okay.
We were down almost 20 points. So as the strategists for the grassroots movement in that, we put concentrations in here, we put signs in here, we put advertising in here, we put a lot of work, we put over 1 million pieces of literature out for that campaign. And we concentrated in this area and brought those numbers up considerably. I think it's terrible the way the Saginaw and Flint has been avoided. We can win 81 states, 81 counties, and lose in Genesee County and Wayne County. We've got to turn that around. Now, you're getting an increased minority population in these cities, and we're not really reaching them. I'm convinced from the Freedom to Work movement, where we penetrated the unions pretty deeply and found out that the blacks, Hispanics, and females felt very, very discriminated against. We brought them in. They voted for Proposal 2 to defeat this. And I think if we can recruit 25 minorities in Saginaw and 50 in Flint and 100 in Detroit as a toehold and develop and grow that, blossom it out like yeast, I think we can have a paradigm shift in the Republican Party and be the majority party in this state. I think also we got to work for the faith vote. You know, 70% of our vote in the last 2 elections were people of faith. Only 30% show up at the polls. So there's low-hanging fruit. Let's try to get the faith vote out. And we've got a plan to do that. We're working on the details. We've got some organizations in the state, including Paul's, that is neatly equipped to work with to make that happen. And so I'm really serious about strategizing and turning out this vote. I've done it in several campaigns, and I know how to do it.
Thanks, Norm. Is there any other questions? Thank you, Norm.
Thank you very much.
Our next candidate
me come visit you, and I thought I'd just start off by briefly introducing myself and giving you a little bit of an idea of my background. My name is Ronna Romney-McDaniel. I have a very famous uncle named Jim Romney. I don't know if you've heard of him. No, I'm just kidding. I grew up in Michigan. I grew up in the Bloomfield, Birmingham area and went to high school and left for a little while and came back with my family. I have a husband, Patrick. He's from California. I convinced him to move to Michigan. Tells you a little bit about my powers of persuasion. And 2 kids, Abigail and Nash, after the Nash Rambler. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that car, but there is some history to that name. And before I was a stay-home mom, and I left the paid workforce for the stay-home workforce, I had a business background. I was a business manager for a company. I hired, I fired, I dealt with multi-million-dollar budgets, and I also worked for a production management company where I dealt with media and messaging for Republican candidates across the country, and very familiar with the importance of getting our message out and getting it right, and knowing that if you put a lot of money behind the wrong message, it makes no difference, and if you put good money behind the right message, it can move the dial. So those are things that I bring to this position, as well as my grassroots experience. I'm a precinct delegate. How many of you are precinct delegates in this room? Great, thank you so much for what you do. I'm a precinct delegate. I have served on my district committee. I've served on state committee. And for the past year, I've been serving as the National Committeewoman for Michigan, which has been such an honor. And it's really the driving force for why I'm running for state party chair. There are so many elements that are critical in this time frame for being state party chair, this landscape. 2016 is going to be a much different landscape for us in our party. With the presidential coming through Michigan, we've had 2 cycles where we've essentially had no presence in Michigan from our presidential candidate, and it has really hurt our down ballot. And when you look at the voter turnout this time, we had about 43% voter turnout. In a presidential year, it goes up to 65%. It is much harder for Republicans to be elected in that type of landscape during a presidential year. So there are things that we have to focus on as a state party to be ready for that and what that means for us, because here are the things that are up in 2016. We need to keep our House, right? Representative Kelly, we need to keep our majority in the House. That is our conservative stronghold in this state. We have to keep that. We have our Supreme Court race, we have our congressional delegation, and our Board of Education. And of course, how many of you want to be competitive presidentially in Michigan in 2016?
Yeah.
How many would you like to turn the state red? So we have very important goals for state party in 2016. And as your chair, there are things that I bring uniquely qualified, that I'm uniquely qualified to do to make these things happen. 1, fundraising. We do have to raise money as a state party. Those are critical dollars that we raise, not only just to fund the state party organization, to pay for our state convention and our state committee meetings, but to help our representatives in their district races and to do the things we do financially to help our candidates throughout the state. I know the donors in the state. I'm not going to have to hire an outside consultant. I have that background. Patrick Colbeck, do any of you know Senator Patrick Colbeck, the leader of Right to Work in our state? He is he's in the 7th district where I'm from. I threw him as largest fundraiser in Michigan. That is my background. I can raise the money, and that's important. But you cannot raise money at the expense of the grassroots. And that is why I am in this race. And that is what I have seen through my experience in the grassroots, being a precinct delegate, being on state committee, district committee, and now national committee woman, that we are losing our grassroots. And we have no chance of winning in 2016 and doing the things that I just talked about if we do not engage our grassroots, get every vote out that we can, and grow our party. We have to grow our party. So here are the things I'm looking at that I saw across the state. 1, as your state party chair, I am going to come to you in your counties and say to you, how can we support you in the area you know best? And county by county, we are going to make an action plan with measurable goals, precinct by precinct, and look at vote totals and the increase in vote totals that we have to do to be successful in 2016. And we're going to come up with resources that you need, that we at State Party will help you find and give to you. And they may be financial. Because I know if I'm the chair and I raise the money, and last year, just so you have an idea, State Party raised $30 million. okay? I sit on the RNC. We are unique among other states. No other state has the resources that Michigan has to help their local candidates. We do not want to lose that. And it can go away. If you can't raise the money, it's gone. But I'm going to say, so we raised $30 million. I want to come to Amy and say, what do you need? Tell me what you need in Saginaw to be successful. And she says, we need $15,000 for our Get Out the Vote program, to get our poll watchers, to get our EDO up and running. And I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to go raise you that $15,000 right now. I'm going to come up with some incentives, maybe for some matching funds and things that we can do. But you're going to use that money more effectively here than I would in Lansing, right? Amy's going to know the local contractors, the local vendors. She's going to squeeze every ounce of value out of that dollar to be used in your county. That's the type of collaboration and cooperation we need between state party and our county parties. We need to be a team. We need to be working together. If you have ownership in it and I have ownership in it, we're going to keep you guys engaged because we need you, okay? Where's Kyle? Kyle, raise your hand. This is the other thing we need. We need youth. We need to grow this party through youth. And one of the things that made me so passionate this cycle is as Terry Lynn Land was attacked daily with this false war on women. And I got to surrogate for her all over the state, do radio shows against congressional Democratic candidates, and talk about our party and what we provide for women. You know, women start 2 out of 3 small businesses in this country. We are the party that's fiscally responsible. We are the party that's going to help those women be successful. We have got to message better. We have to draw women in. We have to draw youth in. We have to grow our party. How many of you have been to the Detroit office? I've been to the Detroit office several times. Norm, Tim, you guys been? You have to go to the Detroit office. It is remarkable what we are doing in Detroit. As chair, I don't want to just have an office in Detroit. I want to be serving in Detroit. I want to have service projects and be in that community for the next 2 years. It is not about quantity of contacts that we make in the next 2 years. It is about quality. So if we are building relationships in our communities and we're building the state party that allows you to do that at the county level, we will grow our party. And finally, it's about all of us and our message. And I want to ask each of you, when is the last time you felt so inspired by a race that you were ready to go knock those doors and you were going to give everything you could to that candidate? Can you remember that time? You felt that passion. Why did you feel that way? Why did you want to work so hard for that person? It's because they stood for something. They stood for something you believed in. As a state party, we will stand for something. I voted for our platform on the RNC, or at the Tampa convention. I was a delegate on that floor voting for that platform. I took that seriously. It is something I believe in as your state party chair. We are going to stand for our platform and our principles. At the RNC, I've been able to vote against Common Core, to stand for what we believe in as a national party. If we do that as a party, if we stand for what we promise to do and stand for our platform and our principles, are you going to come and be engaged? Are you going to be inspired by that? Absolutely. That is how we're going to keep our base engaged. We need to work with all of us. No more of this divisiveness. I don't want to fight with Republicans. We want to fight the Democrats. They're doing so many bad things in this country. I am not interested in coming here and talking bad about people in our party. I want to move forward with our positive vision, grow our party, raise the money, create the grassroots organization, and win in 2016. I will talk to any one of you about any of these things. I can't take your whole night. I could. I'm so passionate about this. I'm passionate about being out there and speaking about our party and our platform and what we believe in, because we are right. We are right. We have the ideas that will change this country. We have it, and you all know it, and that's why you're here and you're volunteering. I want to talk about that as your state party chair. I'm passionate about it. I thank you so much for listening to me. I would appreciate your support. I look forward to being a team with you for the next 2 years, whether elected or not. But I promise I will serve you well. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
John?
Oh, are you answer? Yeah, hi, John.
Recently, your campaign was able to communicate that you are not in support of the
Sales
property
tax.
or the
No.
sales tax
No.
proposal. My question is why it seemed to take so long for that position to become clear.
Well, it didn't take long because I've been around the state talking to people about that for a long time. And from the beginning of my race, I said I did not support the sales tax. And let me just talk a little bit about state party too, because I've served on state party. And as the chair, I don't view my role as being a, dictatorial, and I don't mean it that word, but I don't get to say, this is what the party is going to do. What we do as a party is we have a state committee that governs. You're gonna elect 6 people from your congressional district to serve on your state committee along with your district chair. The state party decides, the state committee decides how the state party governs, not the chair. I don't get to go to them and say, this is what we're gonna do. We collaborate, we work together as a body, a governing body, and make votes according to the districts we represent. I don't get to tell you what your district says. And so that is why when Norm is talking about a resolution being passed at state committee, which I think most likely could happen, that a resolution be passed through the issues committee against the sales tax. That's not for me to say. We've got to elect our state committee members. You should ask your state committee members where they stand on that. So those are important things. And I do want to clarify about the March 15th primary. The RNC put rules in place that with our current legislation, which held our primary date at February, I think 23rd, the 4th week in February, we would have only had 9 delegates that we could send to the national convention, okay? Those were the rules in place. They were non-negotiable. If we did not change our primary date, we would only have 9 delegates. How would you feel to only have 9 delegates representing Michigan in the presidential race? That primary date had to be changed. Now, when Norm is saying he wants a convention, you go talk to your state committee members. You talk to them about what they want, okay? That is not for the chair to make a decision. That is for the state committee, the governing body of our party, to vote on. They voted on that. And that March 15th date, although it does say winner take all, it's only winner take all if they get 50% plus of the vote. So anything under 50% is proportional. It's very unlikely, I think, that any candidate would get over 50%, considering the vast pool of candidates we're going to have. And I do have a little experience in this, since Mitt has been the nominee twice and won the Michigan, or not the nominee once, but won the Michigan primary twice. Even in the Santorum race, he never broke that 50% threshold. So that's a very hard threshold for us to be winner take all. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I will say what is right is to change our date so we don't get penalized to 9 delegates. That is inexcusable for us to have that happen in Michigan.
But do you have an opinion about it?
Do I have an opinion about it?
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have an opinion
I
about
like
the
closed
open
primaries.
primary?
Absolutely closed primaries. We should have closed primaries. But the chair doesn't decide that.
No, but the chair can have an influence, right?
Well, the legislature makes it a closed primary. That's a legislative issue. I'm not a legislator as chair of the party. I can say what I like, and I can go to the legislature and say as a constituent, you can go do that. But I don't get to change Michigan to a closed primary. That's a legislative issue.
But you are going on the record as saying you'd like a closed
I
primary?
would love a closed primary, and I've actually written that in the past, and I've lived in states that have had that, where you have to be a registered Republican to vote in your primary. Florida has it, for example. My stepdad is an independent. He's not allowed to vote in their primary process. Okay.
Greg, you had a question?
No, he asked it.
Oh, he asked it. Okay. Lisa?
You mentioned your business experience. Can I ask what kind of
Yeah.
company or what the company was and when this was?
Sure, yeah, I know, everybody's so curious, huh? They get everything. So I worked, after college, I worked as a production assistant for a media firm in DC. It's called Greg Stevens and Company. And my boss was the man who was kind of the architect of the Dukakis ad in the tank, right? You know, that, and I went in and I worked my way up. I started at $8 an hour, and I was young out of college. And I ended up running the department, the production department. And we ran races all over the country. Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, Voinovich in Ohio, DeWine in Ohio. And I flew and I managed the production of all their TV and radio commercials. I hired, I fired, I made union contracts with people, because sometimes you fly into a state and everyone would show up and they'd join the union right there on the spot in your film crew. Detroit was one of those states that had that. So those were things I negotiated after stag races. I did all the billings, all the hiring and firing, every aspect of the production department. And as you can imagine, that's quite a bit in a political firm. And it was a great learning experience. And I got to learn a lot about messaging and how in certain races, when they didn't tweak their message right, didn't work. I'm very focused on that as state party chair. State party chair, you do make contracts with print, media, advertising. That's my background. It's in my wheelhouse. It's something I'm passionate about. So I had that experience, and then I moved to Ohio. I put my husband through law school as a business manager for an events planning company. Came in, they were losing money in their department. They brought me in, they said, we're dying. We're making all this money and we're not profitable. I turned their revenues around 7% in their first year. And I was voted Employee of the Year that first year, okay? On top of that, it was an event planning company, so you deal with all those trucks, right? You're taking trucks all over the country. So we had events in Puerto Rico, $1 million events. We put on events for large corporations. Ford, one of them, did their sales events, things like that. And I learned when I came in, they weren't CDL compliant. Do you know what CDL is? So all of our drivers were driving around, they weren't doing their logs right, they weren't taking their breaks. So I had to go to truck school to learn how to fill out the CDL logs to teach our drivers how to do that. So that's the background. Listen, I'm a worker. I will not go into this without giving everything I have. Now, we talk about experience, and experience is great, but you know what? Having the right skills and being the right person for the job is important too. And I'm telling you, I'm the right person for this time and place for our party. I believe it with all my heart. I hope you will too. Thank you.
Thanks, Ronna. And next we have Kim Shmina.
The phone is making a very odd noise back
Oh.
there. It's music, or it's somebody's.
Oh, I can hear it. Yeah, maybe it's someone else.
It's like a nice Spanish.
You can use the podium or not, whatever
I'm
you-
kind of a
Floater?
pacer, so I'll pace my way through. Hello, and thank you. Thank you all for what you do. I usually start off every time. Ronna stole my thunder with that one. I always thank the delegates because you know what? You're our heart and soul. Without the grassroots, without our volunteers, and without our delegates, we have no party. You are our party. Don't ever forget that. We don't get thanked enough at this level, and we need to. My name's Kim Shmina, and I want to tell you a little bit about me and then why I'm running for chair. First off, oh boy, where do I start? I'm an up north girl. I was born in Hamtramck, but raised in Sheboygan County, graduated from Inland Lakes High School. My graduating class had 70 students, very small town. I have small town values, I'm a small town girl. I believe it's those small town values that make you what you are. And I'm truly a grassroots person. I grew up pretty modestly. I left home at 17. I lived in a trailer, put myself through nursing school. That was my first calling. I have the best career that you can ever imagine. I get to help people. I get to help sick people get better. I get to help families. And I love what I do. So after I was a nurse for a number of years, I decided it was time to go back to school. I went to U of M to finish up my bachelor's degree. Michigan State is where I became a nurse practitioner and earned my master's. And I have a doctorate from Wayne State. I teach at Wayne State. And oftentimes you will hear, at least if you've been around hearing me speak, I talk about being in the belly of the beast. For those of you who do not know Wayne State is arguably the most liberal college, university in this state. The most. And the reason why I say that is because for the last 6 years, well, last year being the exception, we haven't even had a Republican group on campus. There's a reason why we haven't. Anybody know what that might be? Not one faculty member would sponsor that group. Not one. We have a group now. Guess who sponsored that?
Yeah.
And immediately, and this is a true story, immediately upon them finding out, my dean called me down to the office to have a talk. And that talk consisted of her fear that I was being divisive and that this could potentially be harmful for the College of Nursing. That was the talk we had. So what's really interesting in the 9 years that I've been at Wayne State is I actually teach policy and politics in the School of Nursing to master and doctoral students. So not only do I interact with students, undergrad students, a ton of African American students, because about 25% of our classes have African American students as the student body, but also I get to express conservative values. Now, when you get your curriculum, when you start teaching a class, quite often it's very liberal, very liberal. So I get to present both sides, and you know what I found so interesting? People get us. They understand conservatives. I can take conservative values and put them against any nursing philosophy, any nursing theory out there, make that connection, my students go, aha, I get it. Orm's theory of self-care, do only for others what they cannot do for themselves. Does that sound like a conservative principle? I teach that to my students every day. I have touched over 2,000 students in the last 9 years, and I'm converting them. I am using right now what I call political evangelical work. That's what I do every day. Ronna talks about our Victory Center in Detroit. I've been there with one person on staff and nobody in the room. Come down to the campus, come down to our Republican Party and see what we have going on there. We went from nothing to something, but one thing I will tell you, you also see a lot of people hating on us. It's a tough place to be, you know, and I'm not afraid of that. When you look, oftentimes people will call me a grassroots activist. I have 4 children. I have 2 adult children, 2 little ones. I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. When the 7-year-old was 4 and a half, we went to the 100% Fed Up rally. Does anybody remember that one? It was in Dearborn. President Obama had a $1,000 a plate fundraiser over at the Henry Ford, and a bunch of us went down there and picketed. And my 4-year-old was in the Detroit Free Press with a sign, and you should have seen the hate mail I got. Look at what this horrible mother is doing to her little girl. And the whole time we were laughing and having fun, and we were there probably, I don't know, 2.5 hours. But oh, you would have thought that I was, you know, breaking child labor laws by taking my daughter with me. And I figure you learn by example. She saw her mother doing something very important to her. When I talk about grassroots, I live grassroots. I've knocked thousands of doors personally. I'm a precinct delegate. I'm the vice chair of the 10th District GOP committee. But all those things mean nothing. It's the team that means something. And that's what I do the best. 26 years I've been a nurse, and it takes a team to make somebody healthy, and I have been a team leader. It takes physicians, it takes lab techs, it takes dietary, it takes the nurse, it takes physical therapy. And the nurse is the one on the front line making sure everything runs and making sure, A, that people get healthy, and B, that they don't die. So essentially what I've been doing is team leading life or death situations. Taking that and moving that to this is an easy step for me. I was the maternal child health director for Little Traverse Bay Band of Odawa Indians. I covered 27 counties. Our health department budget was $8 million. I can handle people, I can handle budgets, I can prioritize, I had to. That's what I did. I did that for 4 years. I missed my patients. That's when I decided to go back and get my master's degree. Because I wanted to be with patients. Now, I was the first one in this campaign to come out with a written plan. I'm going to nurse this party back to health. I'm using my roots. And my written plan was put out using the nursing process as an action plan. It tells you how to assess the problem. It tells you how to diagnose the problem. It tells you what to do for the problem. It tells you how to evaluate what you did to make sure it worked. Step by step. Very clear. No fancy, I put down all my values, but there's a difference between talking about your values and having an action plan. And we were the first campaign to come out and do that. We were the first campaign to come out with an email on Sanctity of Life Day, because that day has been neglected for too many years by this party. Life, in order to have liberty, you must first have life. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that has been neglected. So I came out with that very strongly because I believe that as part of our platform, it's something that we need to put at the top of the list. So we were the first ones out with that, the first ones out with the plan, the first ones out with, on Martin Luther King's birthday, a unity statement. We have been showing leadership this entire race, the entire race. I just want to continue to do that. Now, there are a few other things that I want to talk about. Because the plan is important, my background is important, our team is important. But money is also important. And, you know, Ronna mentioned that she's got relationships with donors. I'm sure Norm has relationships with donors. I am active with 5 different charities. On all 5 charities, I have been actively on their finance committees, on all 5. And I have helped raise money in situations where every dollar counts. We're not talking about just going in because we're trying to get somebody elected. We're talking about money that people need to pay the heating bills, to keep the doors open for nonprofit charities. And I have been very successful at that. So I would like to take the experience I have, and quite frankly, there's a whole heck of a lot of donors out there that give to charities but don't want to give to the party because they see us as divisive and they see us as mean-spirited. There's a donor, we have partnered in my county with different charities, and that has raised our profile so much in St. Clair County, it is unbelievable. Every quarter we adopt a charity, a local charity, and we go out and do something as the party for that charity. The other thing we do in our county, or what we have been doing, last quarter we had 70 precinct delegates, last election cycle, 70 precinct delegates. We have 187 precinct delegates. 1 election cycle, we did that. We have tripled our membership in 1 election cycle. All the ideas that we have used at the county level, I want to just bring them to the state level. Guarantee you we will grow our party. We need to look at things differently. And yes, Ronna's skills count, experience count, but so do ideas and ingenuity, and that's what I bring. So does passion. I am tired of hearing the saying, Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. I want to fall in love again. I want to fall in love with my party. I want to work hard for my party. I want to fall in love with our platform, and with your help, each and every one of you, we can do this. I can lead this party, and I can lead it better than it's been led before. I can pick it up by the roots, shake it, and make it something to be reckoned with, and that's what I plan on doing. Thank you. Would like my Marco Wendell moment. Yes.
I would like to ask you the same question I asked the other 2 about the open primary and the 50% or more winner take all. How do you feel?
Yeah, that's something I came out with very early in my campaign too. I hate the fact that we have an open primary. And to me, a closed primary is a minimum. I mean, I would not even, that's not even where I want to start. I like a caucus or a convention because that actually gets the delegates involved. The delegates have power. People have to come to the delegates and run through the delegates. It takes a lot of money out of it. So I would prefer a convention or caucus to a even a closed primary. But at the very minimum, closed primary. This open business, this is why we have Medicaid expansion and Obamacare and Common Core right now. We have Republicans in the House, in the Senate, and in the governor's seat. Why are we passing Obama's crowning jewels of legislation? I don't get that. And that is something, as chair, by the way, I am a policy girl. I believe that part of the reason that we're Republicans, by goodness, is because we want to change policy. Probably the biggest part. So if your chair isn't willing to take a stand on policy, what good is all this? What good is everything we're doing? So we get Republicans elected that go up there and vote for Democrat, you know, we're Democrat light then. Absolutely, we need to take a stand. Absolutely, you have influence. Your state party has some power? Yes, but your chairman assigns those positions on state party. So the chairman has a little more power than some people would like to let on. Absolutely need to take a stand on policy. That's been going on far too long that we have not. Does that answer your question? Sorry, I get so passionate. I hope I don't seem like I'm yelling at you.
Any other questions?
Lisa.
What do you think about bringing back the finance chair?
I believe that that's a good idea. I believe that this is a big job for one person, and I think you need a team of people to do things. I don't know necessarily whether it would be a finance chair or a finance committee that has a bigger role, But I think it's a big job. Here's what I think too. I think the last election cycle, not last year, but last election cycle, Bobby raised $30 million. I think that's a great amount of money to spend. But I also think we could have done much better. We should have had much better results for that $30 million. We won 4 House seats, 1 Senate seat, and a Board of Ed seat that we won back, and everything else stayed the same. That's a lot of money for just a couple of seats, in my opinion. I think I could have done better. And I think that part of that problem is leadership. We need to be leading, we need to have a strong voice, we need to be united, and we need to raise money. We need to do all those things. Not one person does that. You need a team of people to do that. And I believe, as a team leader, I can pick the best team, I will have that team on board, and we will work hard, and we will win.
Jim, did you have a question? Anyone else?
Yes.
What do you think of youth chair? I like sharing it.
What do you mean?
Well, like, I remember we voted on youth chair and they were both good.
Mhm.
And we felt our state is so big that maybe we need two.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, there's some issues that had happened with Joe. Have you met Joe Gamrat? I like Joe. Both the 2 guys that ran for youth chair were fantastic. But Joe doesn't turn 18 until after, I guess, this first election. There was some kind of rule thing that happened that disqualified him. 2 dynamic young men that would have been fantastic. Do I think we need more than 1 youth chair? I would be very open to that idea. I think it's a great idea. It is something that we have a problem with in our party. The average age of our party is much older than the average age of the Democratic Party. We are an aging party. We have to engage the youth. That's one nice thing about working in the university setting, where I am working with youth. I'm the only one in this setting, running for this office, that has that experience working with those young people in a university setting, and especially in a hostile one.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if I was at, Hillsdale. That would be real easy for me. But does that kind of answer your question? Yes, I'm open to it. I think that we could even go further than that and think about having some youth districts. There's a lot of good ideas out there, and I'd love to hear all of them when it comes to our youth, because that is an area we have to grow.
Mike, did you have a question?
Well, just a comment, and feel free to comment back. First of all, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. Sorry I was late, too. It was a little further than I thought, and the roads were icy.
That's all fine. But the one thing I'd like to put some balance to an earlier comment, and again, feel free to respond, but you're right, we did gain the 4 seats in the House, the 1 seat in the Senate, we gained back the University Board, but we also had many, many competitive seats in the House and Senate that were nip and tuck, that even though we were held at those seats at the beginning of the electoral process, they could easily have gone the other way. And so we won a number of seats that we held, but easily could have gone the other way. What I find amazing in Michigan is that we are perceived as a blue state, and we are, yet.
Purple, I think.
But yet, well, if you look at our presidential record, it's lacking. So far,
But that's a problem. That's a problem.
But if you look at the House and Senate, it is amazing
Yes.
how it's gone the other way. It's amazing. But anyway, I wanted to put some balance to that, because we did much more than just win a few elections.
I think we
held
could have done
many
better. That's my
competitive
comment.
seats.
Not saying that what we did was bad, I think we could have done better. I know with $30 million, I could have done better. I know that. I have a feeling in my gut, because our governor went in, leading in, 12 points ahead, and then all of a sudden what happened? I mean, some of it you have to attribute to the people you have in office. And some of it you have to attribute to the fact that we have open primaries. Some of it you have to attribute to the fact that people are disgusted with the elected officials that we have and are staying home and not voting. Those are all problems that we have to deal with. My comment is not that we weren't successful. We were successful. I think we should have been more successful. I think we could have been more successful, and I think the way to start is by closing our primaries minimum, if not going to caucus or convention. I think that will make a huge difference. At least at the legislative level. Then you start getting good conservatives that believe in the platform, and people get excited again, and they're willing to go out there and work again. They see some, I don't know, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or they see some positive out there. Because right now, quite frankly, I have called people all over this state, and you know what they're telling me? And this breaks my heart. I don't know if I'm a Republican anymore, because these people don't represent my values. I hear that every single day in my phone calls, every day, and it breaks my heart. So that I want to change.
Thanks, Kim. Any other questions for Kim, or any other questions?
And you can ask the others too. I feel
Yeah,
like I'm
is there-
getting more questions, but
Oh.
I love the questions.
Amy, I had a follow-up question for Norm.
Good.
Norm, can you,
Yeah, maybe we should all come.
I had a,
Yeah, come on, we like
you
debates.
referenced, your conversation you had with Tom Leonard and Kevin Cotter. I met with Tom today about proposal 1. Because, you know, it continues to be a pretty pressing issue. Can you share with us, when you had your meeting with them and the response you got? That would be, I think, informative. What was your meeting?
They were both sidebars to the 4th District Roundup.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Claire.
Okay.
And so I had a chance to spend several minutes with each of them separately, and I saw Tom 2 or 3 times, because it was both there Friday night, Saturday morning. And Kevin, you know, I supported him for speaker. I thought he was going to be, and I think he is more conservative than Jace, although I like Jace. And the 2 things I was interested in was that, and I've offered both the last 2 speakers to be involved with setting together a grace-type commission, similar to what we use in the Reagan administration, where you look at every expenditure against a legislative authority and a constitutional authority. And I really think that we could ferret out an awful lot of waste and free up the legislature to do more things with the money we have. But Kevin told me that he's buying this proposal. He's gonna.
What did Tom share with you?
Tom was a little bit ambiguous. He voted against it.
Yeah, he did.
I appreciated that. I thanked him for that. And he said privately he's going to vote against it. but he didn't think he was going to be able to get the caucus, because both houses and the governor have to put it on the ballot, and he didn't think we were going to be able to get that done.
I was just curious. Thank you. I just want to see what you were really talking today.
Okay.
Thank you.
One thing both the ladies addressed that I did not, if you don't mind, on the funding. The 2 biggest grassroots movements, and we funded them. Now, not all of that was on our budget and through our budget. To be sure, on Freedom to Work, a lot of the money was raised by
Ron Weiser and Dick DeVos.
by the big players, the major donors and bundlers of funds, and they did the advertising and so on. This presidential cycle, we're not going to have state senate, U.S. Senate, or governor on the ballot. So our concentration has to be presidential, the House, and local. And I'd like to put an emphasis on the education thing. We put out 1 million pieces of literature separately against Proposal 2 and for our slate for the state education post. I'm passionate about that. I chaired an education task force that came up with alternatives and looked very seriously about what our return on investment is in education. It's not good at all. But yet we keep on, student populations going down, $250 million more we're spending, and this proposal put another $300 million into that. It's just, we're not getting a return on investment. So as far as raising funds, I do have people 2 of them who've raised more money than Bobby Shostak did, who are willing to work with us on raising the funds. I have other people, including some that are supporting Ronna, that have indicated to me that they would be willing to step in and help out. And I do believe it's got to be broader, because it just can't be dependent on a handful of donors, because when you're so focused that way, they can whipsaw you and yank your chain and make you take positions you may not normally want to take, influence nominations and so on. I also want to go in another direction with grassroots. I even had county chairmen tell me they won't give to this party right now. And so I believe that standing for principles, rebanding the party is going to help. But I want to go after the small donors. A person that gives $10, $20, $50, $300 to the party is a stakeholder now. They're vested. They're committed. And so I want to have thousands of new people like that. I've got the largest direct mail house in the country willing to help us do that here, to try to find new Republicans, get them vested and so on. So
Let's let them weigh in too.
okay.
Yeah, that would be nice. Can I go?
Go
Sorry,
ahead, go
sorry,
ahead.
I know you're,
No, go ahead, Kim.
Small dollar donations are important. That's something I talked about since day one as well. You know, we've been talking about that. How much money did each one of you give to State Party last year? Because I'll tell you what I gave. That's what I gave. You know why? I don't trust how they spend it. That is a perception that needs to be broken. People aren't going to give money just for the heck of it and wonder where their dollars are going. But you know what? I gave thousands to candidates. I gave money to school board races. We helped with school board races, 20 different races in the last election cycle, my husband and I. Everything from knocking on doors to helping them design lit, to making the phone calls, to going to fundraisers, to planning fundraisers. You name it, we did it because we wanted to get good conservatives elected. Norm talks about our schools and no value for the dollar. Well, that's because we have all liberals running our schools. School boards are all liberals. They're MEA liberals. And the Republican Party has ignored that level of government for far too long. It's time we start taking those over. So, you know, I kind of digress, but I'm trying to stick with what he was saying, and I'm gonna let Ronna say her piece too.
All right, I'll take that baton. So I do want to talk a little bit about the fundraising. One of the things I've been talking about is obviously in 2012 I was very involved in the Romney campaign. I ran the Women for Mitt, traveled the state. And one of the things that, and I worked with Jim Tino in Oakland County to run precinct delegate training so that we were getting people to walk doors. And we kept calling the Romney campaign and saying, hey, can you send us some Michigan-specific lit? You have a story here in Oakland County. Can we share that lit with our local people? We think it will help resonate and turn out the vote. And we couldn't get that. And so when I come at this race during a presidential year, I come with some experience that's maybe a little different after being on the front lines of that race. And two things I'm very vested in. One is meeting with each of these presidential candidates and talk to them about Michigan and asking them to make a Michigan-specific plan for our state, that they create literature specific to our state. They don't send one-size-fits-all lit that means nothing, that they have the signs ready for the local parties. That's something we're going to work with them on so that we can support them. But the second thing is, and I absolutely agree we need a larger small donor program, and I've been talking about that from day one in this race as well. We do need to bring more small donors in the state party, but with our large donors, and I have actually been having these conversations already, post-nomination, hold your dollars. Do not give any money to that general election candidate, and I'll tell you why. Let's create a Michigan-based giant fundraiser so that we can bring that presidential nominee to our state and help our down ballot post-convention. We have not had a presidential nominee in our state post-convention in 2 cycles. It kills our down ballot when they don't come visit our state. So and I will tell you, the donors I've been talking to are very, very invested in this because they understand, unfortunately, they will come to our state for a $15 million fundraiser, and then we can get them to work with the grassroots. But if we get them to pool and say, hold on until after the nomination, go support whatever candidate you want. Obviously, we're all going to support our candidates, but after they are nominated, let's get them to Michigan to help our ticket because they're going to come for our money. We may as well make them help our state as well. So that's something I'm focused on. I absolutely believe in small donor programs, and some of the things technology-wise I'm looking at as a state party chair is this micro-targeting. And as we have these House rep races, and some of them are going to be very difficult in 2016. We have a lot of termed out reps. As we do this micro-targeting in specific rep areas, we can get dollars, we can target people within those areas that are interested in things like the Second Amendment or youth or women, and we will be more effective in reaching our audience and turning out our votes. So those are things I'm also looking at.
Is there any other questions?
Can I ask one? Really, this has been.
Ask away.
Okay. In Michigan, we managed to elect so many Republicans, but so many of us on the education front were really disappointed that the school board races and the board of regents and all of that went to the Democrats. Is there a reason? Are Republicans taking that ballot and they're only voting on those races that they know, and they're ignoring it? To me, I'm dumbfounded that we couldn't get one Board of Education person.
Well, we did. Melanie Foster. We absolutely did get one Board of Education person.
No, she's not on the board.
Yes, she is. She's on Michigan State.
No, I'm talking about Board of Ed.
Board of Education, okay, State Board of Eds, I was thinking. But, I don't know if any of you have seen what Representative Marty Nolenberg has put through to the Senate. Many of you seen that? To eliminate straight party ticket voting. Have you seen that? This is going before the Senate right now. A lot of that could help alleviate the woes of the State Board of Eds. Of course, we need to invest money, but even in this race, Ambassador Weiser gave $1 million in his race. $1 million extra than any of the other State Board of Ed candidates and the Board of Ed candidates, and he still didn't win his race, even investing $1 million in his own race. Okay, so that shows you how hard it is to overcome that straight party ticket voting. Democrats do. They go in, they vote straight party ticket.
Sure do.
And so we are one of, I think, only 7 states that still has that, has straight party ticket. If you eliminate that and you force voters to go in, and not force, but we want voters to go in and be informed and know the candidates they're voting for and take that time to educate themselves, that will greatly help in 2016 on those Board of Ed candidate races.
Wasn't that already passed once and it was thrown out by the courts?
I don't believe so, no.
I thought it passed and it was kicked out.
No, other states do this.
Most states do.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, we're only one of
here in
7.
Michigan. I'm in here in Michigan.
I don't know. Marty Nolenberg just submitted to the Senate, within the past couple weeks. Yeah.
So you're going on record as getting rid of the straight party ticket on the ballot?
Yes, I would like to get rid of the straight party
And
ticket.
the other two?
I would like to get rid of it as well.
I remember very clearly her grandfather helping split the tickets by teaching people to vote for Lyndon Johnson and George Romney. So I've seen that. I'd have to think about that. I think I remember so clearly in the 2008 race in Indiana, the Democrats had a slogan: punch 10, punch 10, punch 10. 10 was the ballot spot for straight Democrat voting. Now, once we become a majority party, I wouldn't be so opposed to having straight party voting.
You know, I have a
But we've got to, pardon me?
A question for you. The thing about grandfather, I'm confused. Help me understand that one.
George.
Did what?
I went to the '64 National Convention
Yeah, okay.
to run a floor demonstration for her grandfather. I was a kid in college.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought
He
you
was
suggested
a really
responsible
great
grandfather.
guy.
I was a Democrat. I knew.
Well,
I
he went out in the parking lot, and he ran as a favorite
You
son.
should be doing that for me too, Norm. Why not? Come on.
Well, when you run for president, I might, but.
Wow, Romney on the ballot.
That'd be great. I love that idea.
I would like to say one thing. You know, Ronna talks about she wants to raise funds, she wants to intersect with the grassroots, she wants to be the face of the party. I remember a national committee woman that did all that and grew into the job, was a major fundraiser for the Republican Party, right here from Midland, Randy Rieger. I would like to see her go into that job and be able to do all she wants to do, and as state chair, I will enable her to do that, resource her, staff her. To be the great national committee woman she can be, and you'll have both. You'll have somebody who knows the mechanics of running a party.
I don't think it's
and
up
has
to you to
executive
enable me to
experience,
do
and you'll have
that.
her raise the
I
money.
just want to take
Great.
exception. I don't think it's up to you to enable me to do that because I was elected to do that.
I'm the positive candidate. I'm
Yeah.
not picking on anybody. I'm running on my own merits and my own plans.
I was just gonna say, I think we have 3 excellent candidates.
Yeah.
I wish we could have all 3 of you.
We can.
You know, regardless, there isn't one of us that aren't gonna be involved after this is over. I guarantee you, you have not seen the last of any of us. That's for sure.
I want to take one exception to what Kim said. I've been involved in electing a lot of local school board candidates, and we've got a lot of good Republican precinct delegates who have run for school board. I'm involved with a little PAC, Upright Michigan PAC, that has been involved in, they've won 25 of 27 contests. They were involved in Melanie's campaign, and we're looking at an alternative to the Michigan Association of School Boards. a conservative alternative to allow school board members to go to seminars now with a conservative viewpoint on education rather than the left-wing stuff they're getting through the MASB. So I think there's an effective way we can work to change this around. And there are a lot of good school board members that are being led by administrators that handpick them. The MEA's had a program for several years now called Elect Your Own Boss. They've been putting money into school board they've been running as teachers that live in one district and teach in another for school board. They've been running spouses of teachers, they've been running union officials, and they've been taking these school board positions, and it's whack-a-mole on the taxpayers.
Yeah, but
So
that's
it's
been
time
going
to
on for
change that.
years.
It's time to change that.
Yes, and we have been at the grassroots level. And you know how hard it is to run? That was the dirtiest, nastiest race I was ever involved in, was my school board race. Nasty, nasty, nasty race. And it's because the MEA was spending real bucks, real money, thousands of dollars on these school board candidates. And they were smearing them, and they were going to neighbors and saying, Hatfields and McCoys, oh, if you vote for her, then I'm not gonna vote for this one. Stealing signs like I've never seen before. I started putting my signs on roofs so people couldn't take them. I mean, it was that bad. I couldn't believe it for this little unpaid position. And then you figure out why. $1 million contracts coming through those schools on a regular basis. They want all their people there, so they'll hire all their buddies. So there's a lot involved in school board races, and we've been doing a terrible job. When in my school district, 7 school board members, all of them MEA. 2 of us ran, 1 conservative on the board. That's what we worked our butts off.
When I served on the 11th District Committee, though, we supported school board races. I mean, that's one of the things we did as a district committee. I don't know how your district committees work, but we supported Plymouth Canton school board candidates. We raised our funds. A lot of our, I think we put $6,000 or $7,000 towards the school board candidates. It made a big difference.
It does.
And you can do that. So when I'm talking about raising money as a party chair and coming to the counties and the districts and saying, how can we help you? And part of that's giving funds. Part of that's you guys allocating that to local races. Not only just because we want our school boards to be that way, but also we need to build a farm team. It's part of recruiting leaders for our party. So as we invest in these local candidates, they're going to grow up and they're going to be leaders and be leaders in their community and our party. So I've done that on the district committee of the 11th district when I served as executive secretary. We've raised funds and given those to our school board races. And as national committee woman, just so you know, it's a non-paid position. So as I traveled this year, it's thousands of miles. I don't get paid for that. That's all me. So I pay for my flights to go to the RNC meetings. That's because I love it, and it's a service, and it's something I believe in. But I don't want anybody to think that I did that out of anything other than from a grassroots perspective. It's a volunteer, non-paid role.
Thank you very much,
Oh,
everyone.
real quick, if I can just
Just
clarify
real
something
quick,
about straight ticket voting. I thought we voted on that, and we did. In 2001, there was Senate Bill 173, and it was signed by Governor Engler into law. But then the other side worked to put it on the ballot, and voters repealed it in 02.
That's
Oh, that's what happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Pardon me?
Thank you. I
I
appreciate
remember
that.
that.
That's what happened. I thought, you know what, we voted on it. I know we did. And that's one vote every
So
year.
it's back. So go research it. Go research it. Talk to your representatives and your Senate.
You know, if I may, make, Madam Chair, if I may just make one quick statement, I'd be remiss not to say something. You know, many of you know I work for Representative Gary Glenn, and I love the man. But we have one representative here tonight that I will tell you, I have watched Tim Kelly work, and he has never left his principles. I'm so proud of the job Tim Kelly does for us.